Welcome to Spruce Grove Alliance Church, your home.
Today, we are in the book of James, and I want to set the stage literally for this talk today. The universe is big, isn't it? Do you know how big it is? And we are just one small fragment of dust floating through the universe. I have on my stage today a white rope, and it goes this way out that door, and it goes this way out this backstage this way, and it goes out the door that way. I want you to pretend that this rope right here is eternal, that this goes out this side of the stage, it goes out the door, it goes across Canada to Halifax, 60 hours of driving across Halifax, and then hits the ocean and goes up into the atmosphere and goes out past Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, and keeps going out past the Milky Way galaxy. So the Milky Way galaxy is 130,000 light years across, which means that you go the speed of light, which is 300,000 kilometers per second. That's faster than my Civic, okay? I've tried it. 300,000 kilometers per second. You do that 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. You do that for 130,000 years. You go from one edge of the Milky Way galaxy to the other edge of the Milky Way galaxy. So this goes past the Milky Way galaxy, and then it keeps flying past the other end of the Milky Way galaxy, and it goes past 2 billion other galaxies bigger than our galaxy. Our galaxy is just a normal Tuesday galaxy is this side. This goes out about 16 hours to Vancouver, goes over to the Pacific Ocean, keeps going the other way in the opposite direction, and keeps going and going past the Milky Way galaxy, which is 130,000 light years across, past another 2 billion galaxies that are absolutely huge, and keeps going and going that way. And this, right here, this red tape is your life. And there's people that have gone before you, and you're overlapping with others. And right here is the start of your life. You were a twinkle in your daddy's eye right there, okay? And you were born. And then remember when you felt like it was, you were eternally in school, like you would never get out of school? You're like, I'm going to be here forever. This is like 12 years of this. This is eternity, you know? And then finally you graduate, and it was like, wow, this is amazing. Like I get a whole life in front of me. And then you get your first job, and then you meet that special someone, and then you get married, and then you have kids, and you have multiple kids, and then you scratch ahead just barely enough to get by, and barely get enough to retirement, and then you retire, and then grandkids come along, and then that's the end of your life, right there. And then I maybe do your funeral, or pastor does your funeral, and they reflect over that at your funeral. We're going to talk about that, the red tape on your funeral. And you know what? The writers of the New Testament are insatiably consumed with the white rope. They're saying that the white rope matters more than this red tape. In fact, they're all about how we are able to grasp hold of the eternal sovereign God because of everything that we have in Jesus. That's what they're insatiably consumed about. And the writer today of James is all about us being hyper-fixated on the rope and not necessarily the tape. Or shall I say, living within this tape in light of the eternal rope. This is why we come to church. This is why we come to macro church. This is why we come to micro church, because the world all day, every day will tell us that the tape is what matters most. Just invest everything, think about this tape, get as much as you can out of this tape, and then we come together on Sunday and we songs about how he reigns above it all. And we're right, oh yeah, that's right. The rope matters more than this, or I need to live my life within this red tape in light of this eternal rope. Today's sermon flows out of last week's, and last week's we learned about two fundamental operating systems and how they play themselves out in relationships. There's a wisdom from below, and there's a wisdom from above, which is just a fancy way of saying that it's a way of living that the world says is best and a way of living that God says is best. And the way of living that the world says is best is look out for number one, do what's best for you, your happiness is what's most important, and if you live that way, it's going to play itself out a certain way in your relationships. But a way of living that God says is best is humility, and it's going to play itself out in a certain way in relationships in your life as well. It's going to be pure and peace-loving and considerate and submissive. And we talked about that last week. And we said that God opposes the proud and he gives grace to the humble, that anyone who has the attitude of me, God's like, no, eventually, no. But anyone with an attitude of you, God. It's not about me. It's I'm here, I'm small, and you're huge, God. You're infinite, God. It's all about you. And my life is about to give glory to you, God. God's like, yes. Well, today is part 2 that flows out of last week. And we're going to talk about 3 diagnostic tests to know which operating system you are living beyond your relationships. 3 diagnostic tests to determine if you're living a me lifestyle or it's a you lifestyle. 3 diagnostic tests to determine if you're fixated entirely on the red tape or you've considered and you're living in the red tape in light of the white rope. First test is how we plan for the future. The second test is how we handle money. And the third test is how we deal with difficulties. So let's continue to have James read us like a book on these issues. First off, how we plan for the future. Now listen, you who say, today or tomorrow, we're going to go to this or that city and spend a year there and carry on business and make money. Why do you not even know what will happen tomorrow? What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if it's the Lord's will, we will live and do this or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogant schemes. All such boasting is evil. If anyone then knows the good they ought to do and doesn't do it, it is sin for them. Now he goes on to talk about how we handle money. Now listen, you rich people, weep and wail because of the misery that is coming on you. Your wealth has rotted and your moths have eaten your clothes. Your gold and silver have corroded. Their corrosion will testify against you and eat your flesh like fire. You have hoarded your wealth in the last days. Look, the wages you failed to pay your workers who mowed your fields are crying out against you. The cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord Almighty. You have lived on earth in luxury and self-indulgence. You have fattened yourself in the day of slaughter. You have condemned and murdered the innocent one who is not opposing you. Now he talks about how we deal with difficulties. Be patient then, brothers and sisters, until the Lord's coming. See how the farmer waits for the land to yield its valuable crop, patiently waiting for the autumn and spring rains. You too, be patient and stand firm, because the Lord's coming is near. Don't grumble against each other, brothers and sisters, or you will be judged. The judge is standing at the door. Brothers and sisters, as an example of patience in the face of suffering, take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord. As you know, we count as blessed those who have persevered. You have heard of Job's perseverance and have seen what the Lord finally brought about. The Lord is full of compassion and mercy. And this verse seems like a non sequitur, but we'll see how it fits. Above all, brothers and sisters, do not swear. Not by heaven or by earth or by anything else. All you need to say is a simple yes or no. Otherwise, you will be condemned. This is the word of the Lord. And so there are 3 diagnostic tests that we saw in there to determine if you're fixated completely on just this red tape, or if you're living this red tape in light of the white rope. How we plan for the future, how we handle money, and how we deal with difficulties that come in our life. And so first off, how we plan for the future. Now, interesting life fact about Pastor Brent. The very first sermon that I preached, that was my text. Grade 6, believe it or not. I had a Sunday school teacher. His name, believe it or not, was Charlie Brown. Yes, I know. And he was a police officer, and I remember it because he had the best stories. Cops have the best stories. And he was so passionate about Jesus. And he got us in grade 6, all of our students, at one time throughout the year, we had to prepare a 3 to 4 minute sermon on anything in the Bible. And he was so encouraging and so exciting for us. And he wanted us to get so pumped up about the Word of God. And so I think it was probably because I was memorizing the book of James in grade 6 in my Christian school, that this text was in my heart. And this was my text. And I remember standing there and reading it, nervous in front of my grade 6 class. And what is your life? It was about life. It says, you are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. And all I can remember about that 3 to 4 minute sermon where it all started, where it all began, was I was talking about the fog out on the East Coast and how the fog, because of the ocean there, will come in and be there in the morning, and then the sun will burn it off. And our life is just a fog. It's just a mist. It's just there for a season. Even grade 6 Brent was considering and thinking about the brevity of life. It was like even at that point in my life, I knew that every grave eventually goes unvisited. And it says at the end here, this verse, if anyone then knows the good they ought to do and doesn't do it, for them it is sin. And so in the church we talk about sins of commission and sins of omission. So it's an active sin or it's a passive sin. You can actively do something that disobeys God, or you can not do something that's right, which is just as much a sin. So it's a commission or an omission. And so here it's telling us that we omit God in our consideration of the future. The sin of not even considering that there's an eternal God when we plan for the future. So how do we make plans for the future? Is it all me-focused, just in the red tape, or is it a sovereign, eternal God-focused? And you might have heard the term, Lord willing. You might even have used the term as you talk about the future. Next summer, we're going to do this, Lord willing. This is where this text comes from, because if it is the Lord's will, we will live and do this or that. This is what Christians say, because we are bringing God, the sovereign, eternal God, into our plans, and we're planning in pencil, not in marker, and we're giving God the pencil and saying, is this what you want, God? Lord willing, this is going to happen. Why? Because our life is a mist that appears for a moment and is gone. Every grave eventually goes unvisited. Now, I've been fascinated with this recent trip around the moon, Artemis 2. Unless you've been living under a rock, you've heard of this as well. I think they should have called it the cow. The cow jumped over the moon, but they just flung themselves around the moon. And this is the first time in space in a long time. And it's interesting that we can throw up cameras there all the time, and we send them to Mars and outer space, and we take pictures of the universe, and we send them back, and we're awe-inspired. But it's something different when we send some human beings up there, and we get their visceral response to what they see. And astronauts experience something called the overview effect, where seeing Earth from such a far distance away causes this psychological and spiritual shift in their soul. And I love what Christina Koch, the first female astronaut, said when she reflected on this trip around the moon. 250,000 miles away, which is approximately the distance of how much light travels in 1 second. So 250,000 kilometers away, she says this, and you might have seen it. When she viewed Earth from that distance away, it was not simply the beauty of the Earth, but it was the blackness around it that stood out to her. And then she uses this illustration. Earth is a lifeboat hanging in the universe. So you zoom back out, and this is literally the wisdom from above. We can talk about wisdom from below and wisdom from above. This is the wisdom from above, and she views Earth, and the perspective from that far away is that we're small and that we're finite. The biggest psychological, spiritual shift is that your ego shrinks. And when we get so focused on this tape and we obsess over plans and we think we're so big and we're somewhere along in this tape, but the wisdom from above realizes how small we really are. Do you realize that the atmosphere around Earth is proportionately thin as the skin on an apple? The atmosphere that you live in, that if you leave it and you go too high into Mount Everest, you start throwing up and getting headaches and altitude sickness, and it takes you about 3 weeks to actually go to Mount Everest. Like that atmosphere where you live and move and have your being, the atmosphere where you get so worked up and doing all these little things, that is proportionately thin as the skin of an apple. And if you want to leave that, it takes billions of dollars and years of planning of all the human race just to circle themselves around that moon. And we think we're so big. Psalms says it this way: all our days pass. Our days come to 70 or 80 if our strength endures, and they quickly pass away and we fly away. Teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. We get so fixated on the tape. I remember I was in grade 8, and my grandfather went home to be with Jesus, and he was a great preacher. And I remember being at his funeral, and my mom had a huge family. It was 11 kids, and it was a big funeral. And I remember this like it was yesterday, because the pastor was talking about the brevity of life in the funeral. And he was talking about how we don't know who could be next. We don't know how long we have on this planet. And he literally said, and I remember so like it was yesterday because I remember what happened next. He said, I could be the one that goes next. Or he looked at my Uncle Bob, who was sitting right there. And he said, Uncle Bob, he said, it could be you. We don't know. And that very night, my uncle fell asleep at the wheel and hit a telephone pole and went home to be with Jesus. We don't know who's going to be next. It could be me. It could be... No, I'm not going to do it. It could be anyone. We know we know which operating system we are living by the diagnostic test of how we make plans for the future. Are we fixated on the tape or the rope? The second one is how we handle money. And James has some pretty harsh comments for those consumed with money, if you notice. He already had some pretty harsh critique of them in chapter 1. He said the rich should take pride in their low position because they pass away like a wild flower. The sun rises with scorching heat and withers its plant, its blossoms fall, its beauty is destroyed. In the same way, the rich man fades away even while he goes about his work. But listen, he ramps it up here. Your wealth has rotted, and your moths have eaten your clothes. The gold and silver are corroded, and their corrosion will testify against you and eat your flesh like fire. You have hoarded your wealth in the last days, exploiting workers. You have lived on the earth in luxury and self-indulgence. You have fattened yourself for the day of slaughter. And you have condemned the innocent one who is opposing you. A very tragic and terrible picture of me, greed. I watched this video once of it was if humans acted like dogs. Any dog lovers in the room? Yeah. They can get very territorial if they come near your property, and so they just go bark and bark, right? And so it did this kind of skit video that if humans acted like dogs, and so it showed this person sitting on their deck, and all of a sudden they see a human walking by, like, oh, and they run back out, and they run out to their picket fence. They're like, this is my place, stay away from my place, run from my place, get away from my place, stay away from my place, that's right, you go away from my place, you stay stay away from my place, right? And we can get like that with our money. This is my stuff. You stay away from my stuff. Don't you come near my stuff. This is my stuff, this is my stuff, this is my stuff. Very much a picture of what James says there. But someone with an operating system from above knows it's not my stuff, it's God's stuff. And James assumes that we've read Jesus, his big brother's stuff on money, because Jesus spoke more about money than anything else. He spoke more about money than heaven and hell combined. He talked about how we need to not store up treasures on earth, but store up treasures in heaven, that we need to be rich towards God, that we can't serve God in money, and then we need to be on guard against all kinds of greed, and a person's life does not consist of the abundance of their possessions, and that we're supposed to be stewards. And money for Jesus was a litmus test on where our heart was. He said, where your treasure is, there your heart is. Now you might remember, we were in the book of Revelation, and I'm not going to let Revelation die. And we talked about the mark of the beast. Remember this? And we talked about how it's not a computer chip. It's not a vaccine. You're not going to accidentally take the mark of the beast and get to heaven and like, oh, eternal damnation for you, okay? The mark of the beast is about ownership. When you're writing names on people in Revelation, it's like Andy in Toy Story. Like, this is mine. He owns us, okay? It's about a lifestyle that either exemplifies a 777, a holy trinity, or it's a lifestyle that exemplifies a 666, unholy trinity. Someone should be able to look at us and be able to say, I see the marks of the holy trinity on this person. It comes out in their life. It's written on their forehead. It's in their actions, in their hands. It's how they think about life, that the word of God is on their life. It's in their life. Or they look at them and I don't see the marks of a Christian on their life. I see the marks of the evil one on their life. They're consumed with just there's this red tape. Well, let me push this a little bit further. That the numbers, because Jesus said where your treasure is, there your heart will be. That the numbers of your bank account will tell you the number on your head. Not how much is in there, but how you use it. Like the numbers of your bank account that nobody else sees but you will tell you who owns you. Is there no compassion? Like the story, like there, we saw no compassion in this picture of James. There's complete self-indulgence and luxury, endless upgrades that are not necessary. There's just a hoarding of wealth. The numbers of your bank account, not how much is in there, but how you spend it, will to tell you who owns you, to tell you the number on your head. If it's all me, what does that tell you about the operating system of your life? Who owns you? And I say this all the time with money. It's not what I want from you. It's what I want for you. I know nothing about what anyone gives to this church, so I'm not looking at anyone. And if you feel like I'm manipulating you, go give it to some other kingdom initiative. There's millions out there. But it's not what I want from you. It's what I want for you. It's so freeing when you realize it's not my stuff, but it's God's stuff. And he's given it to you, and you're just to be a steward of his stuff. It's his stuff. So we know the operating system that we are living by the diagnostic test of not only how we plan for the future, but how we handle money. Are we fixated entirely on this red tape with our money? Are we investing in the white robe? Third one is how we deal with difficulties. And you'll notice that James, like Revelation, calls us to patience and perseverance and patient endurance. Be patient, just like Job. Be patient, just like the farmer. He doesn't get an immediate return like a vending machine when he puts a seed in the ground. He has to wait. He has to wait, just like the prophets. And you might remember we talked about this in the book of Revelation, where there's the theme of patient endurance, and it was Push-Up Sunday. Remember this? Right? I showed you some amazing push-ups on stage because I met a guy at the Tri-Leisure that said 100 push-ups is easy. And I looked over and he was just kind of bobbing his head, and I deducted from that if somebody says 100 push-ups are easy, they're not doing them right. And when it comes to following Jesus, if it's too easy for you, you're not doing it right. It takes patient endurance. And for the Christian especially, sometimes the difficulties are amplified because you have a different mode of operation from the world. Right? You're living according to this. You're living according to this, and you can't take the easy path. You have to take the hard path. And so it takes patient endurance, and everyone has difficulties in their life. And what's interesting is that in the context of talking about difficulties, James is able to read us a book, like a book. He says, don't grumble against one another. Because James knows the tendency that we all have, that when life gets hard, we look at other people and we think that they don't have any difficulty going on in their life, that their life is perfect, and I'm the only one that has it hard. I'm the only one that has to patiently endure. I'm the only one that look at their life over there. And what the problem is that we it's an argument based on silence. It's what we think we know about their story and what we know about our own story. And one of the biggest light bulb moments, and my pastors agreed with this week, one of the biggest light bulb moments that you have when you go into full-time ministry, where you have what I call a front row seat to people's backdoor lives, is this truth: that there's something about everyone that if you knew it, it would change how you treat them. You look across the room and you look at someone and you think, oh, they have it so good. They have it so easy. Nobody else has it as difficult as me. That statement has proved over and over and over and over again in my 24 years of ministry, and all full-time pastors will tell you exactly the same. As we get a front row seat to people's backdoor pain, there is something about everyone that if you knew it, it would change how you treat them. Everyone is carrying something. Everyone has their own pain story. Everyone has their own path of difficulty in their life. And so James is like, don't compare. Don't compare. Keep your eyes focused on Jesus. And a wisdom from above takes this long, eternal view on difficulties. Be patient. Because why? The Lord is coming. The Lord is near. This isn't all there is. There's something better yet to come. And we've talked about this in Revelation for 22 weeks about heaven. This no expense spared beauty, this place where we're going to be, where as Tolkien says, is where everything sad is going to become untrue. And so it takes patient endurance. I went to a movie, was it a year or so ago with my son. I don't go to movies very often. And my son, he likes swords and kind of medieval stuff, and so the new Gladiator movie was out in theaters at the time, and so I'm like, hey, Caleb, and I wanted a chance to connect with my son. Let's go see Gladiator and see some sword fighting. It's like, okay, and so we had a night to go watch this movie, and I do like you, I Googled it and which theater it's in, and we were going to be on the South End, so I found this theater, and I bought these tickets, and I hadn't bought tickets to a movie in umpteen years, and I was like, wow, movies are expensive. Good night. I think I paid like $50 for it doesn't matter, I'm going to hang out with my son. I was like, this is a once in a lifetime thing. I don't go very often, so I paid these tickets, and we go to the theater, and I go up to the lady who rips the tickets in two, and I hand her the tickets, and she's like, oh no, you don't sit in here with us, she said, with us. I was like, whoa. She goes, you go over there. I was like, what do you mean? Like, it said big VIP. I was like, oh, that's why it was $50. That's silly me. I won't do that again. So I walk through, and there's like this big restaurant. You sit into this big lazy boy recliner, and somebody comes up to you, and they give you this menu, and you can order food, and there's this fan blowing on you throughout the whole movie, and this upgrade that I never even expected, but I paid for it, so I may as well enjoy it. I don't think we can fathom the upgrade that's coming our way. I don't think it's incomprehensible. It's not going to be incremental. There's no expense spared beauty that for the believer, where we're going to be with God forever and ever, where everything sad is going to become untrue. And that's what James is telling us, that we need to have patient endurance in our difficulties, not fixated just entirely on the tape. But remember that we're part, because of Christ, the rope. And there's this amazing upgrade coming our way. And then James ends this section with what seems like a non sequitur. But here's how it fits. He says, above all, brothers and sisters, do not swear, not by heaven or earth or anything else. All you need to say is simply yes or no. Otherwise, you'll be condemned. Now, if you know Jesus is the older brother, Jesus talked about this as well, oaths, in the Sermon on the Mount. He said pretty much the exact same thing. Don't swear by heaven or earth. Just simply say yes or no. Otherwise, you'll be condemned. And what will happen is people will sometimes, even in those days, will try to add something to their story or their statements to show how serious they are. Maybe you've heard it, maybe you've used it. I swear on my mother's grave, cross my heart, hope to die, poke a needle in my eye. As God is my witness, I swear to God, I swear on my life. May God strike me dead if I'm lying. And so James is saying, and Jesus is saying, if you need to add something to your story or statements to make people believe it, it shows that there's degrees of honesty in your speech and that you're not trustworthy. No, I really swear. I swear I poke a needle in my eye, cross my heart, hope to die. I swear on my mother's grave. I swear on my life. If you have to add that to some of your statements, it shows that some of your other statements aren't as true as honest. And so, or think of it this way. We all know that person that when they tell a story, we go, I'm not so sure it happened that way. Right? Like, that was a little bit embellishment there. That wasn't impartial, that was partial. And so Jesus and James are saying, don't be that person when you tell your stories, okay? Don't be that head scratcher that people go, did that really happen? So it's those type of people that need to prop up their story with these additives of, I swear on my mother's grave. And so that makes them believable. And so James says, don't be that head scratcher in how you live your life. Be trustworthy with your stories and statements. Yes, that happened, or no, that happened. Oh yeah, if they said it, then it's believable. By how you live your life. When you speak and you say this happened this way, oh, that definitely happened because they're impartial in their story. They always tell the truth. And so James is here telling us to live with such spiritual depth that it's obvious to others that you have a humble heart towards God. That it's obvious to others that it's not me, but it's you, God, you. When it comes to how we plan for the future, how we handle our money, and how we deal with difficulties. Let's land the plane. So, during COVID, I was asked to be part of a TV show called 100 Huntley Street. It's Christian TV in Canada. And they were going to interview these pastors from across Canada. And it was kind of like the Brady Bunch, just like that, where about 20 different little Zoom calls, and they were pre-recording it. And I can't remember what the topic was. It was just about how God was working in our lives and in our church. And I said maybe like 2 lines in it, so don't get any ideas that I'm a famous TV star or anything. But at the end, the host was going to pray, and the host said something that I'll never forget. He said, we're going to probably take multiple takes on this, but I'm going to tell you something that's a compliment, but it's also the difficulty in making TV for church, for making a TV show, for show for TV. He said, what we're going to do is we're going to pray. And I want you to look at the camera. And this is a compliment, but we're going to have to take multiple takes on this because none of you will be able to do it. He said, I want you to fight every urge to bow before your God when you pray. Because if you bow your head, we're going to see all these tops of heads or sides of your faces, and it makes for terrible TV. We want to see your face when we pray. And I'm going to tell you this, and half of you are not going to be able to do it. So let's pray. And then we prayed, and sure enough, half of us bowed our head, and we had to do a second take. And we did it again. And then a quarter of us bowed our head, and we had to do another take. We had to take 5 takes before we had to fight every urge not to bow before our God. When people look at you, do they see the default of your heart? that you have a humble heart towards God. You, God, you, when it comes to how we plan for the future, how we handle our money, and how we deal with difficulties. Do they see the eternal rope? Or do they see that you're entirely fixated on this red tape?
Thanks for listening to this week's message from Spruce Grove Alliance Church. For more information or to hear past messages, please visit sgac.net.